everyone, and welcome to today's class. For today, I have all of the props, and for me, that includes a set of blocks, a blanket, which we may or may not use, and a bolster. So these props are going to be used to find a more supportive shape, to find a little bit more opening within the spine, within the chest. So if you have anything that mimics these props or something similar, or these props themselves, go ahead and have them nearby. We're going to go ahead and use a few of them to get started. And so getting started here in class today, we're going to find a nice supportive opening shape. So for me, I'm going to grab a few blocks. I'm going to place them at the back of the mat. And I like to have the back one, the furthest one at the tallest height. And then the other one is going to be medium height, parallel with the front and back of the mat. And we're going to start there. I'm going to have a bolster nearby as well. If you're feeling a little extra tight, a little extra sore, having a bolster or even the towel rolled up underneath the knees, that can help find a little bit more support underneath to support the low back. So that's an option as well, depending on how much support you're looking for. And then just give yourself some time to come into this shape. I'm gonna have the bolster underneath my knees to start. Try to set up the blocks to land the first one just below the points of my shoulder blades. Let that open my chest up through the rib cage, and then find that taller block to help support the back of my skull. And so that's where we're gonna find here to start. Allowing your spine, your torso to fall heavy onto the supports. To relax into this space. And if bolster feels like more than you need, you can always slip that out and just extend the legs long. If you want to find a little bit more opening through the chest, you can always take the block underneath the head. You can always bring that to a height that mimics the one that's underneath your mid-back. And come into your breath. Breathing deep into the rib cage, feeling the lower part of the ribs flare up with every inhale. And feeling your body let go of just a little bit more tension with every exhale as you settle into your space. Allowing the props to aid in a little bit more opening throughout the body. Allowing yourself to feel supported. Allowing the shoulders to roll open. Collarbones to be nice and broad. Allowing your arms to just melt alongside your bodies, palms facing towards the sky. If you haven't already, closing your eyes, softening your gaze. Gentle lift of the chin to keep an opening within the throat. Just try to be nice and receptive to the energy swirling around you in a way that's productive, not overwhelming. And taking advantage of the moment by setting an intention for arriving onto your mat today, giving yourself a moment of gratitude. For showing your body some love, creating space. Take 3 more deep breaths here. Go ahead and start to blink the eyes open and start to bring your arms underneath you so you can slowly lift the head, walking those elbows underneath you a little bit more. Gentle engagement of the belly if you need as you lift up and off the blocks. Go ahead and set those blocks aside. Sneak that bolster out, set that aside as well. And then cross your ankles, come over top your shins, coming into a tabletop position. Toes tucked and slowly start to just shift your weight forward and back. And this movement could be anything you need to be, a little bit of a counter movement from being in that really nice open position. So maybe in this space, you're finding a little bit of rounding through the back, tucking the tailbone, as you said, the hips to heels. As you come up to tabletop, maybe finding just a neutral spine. And just shifting weight slowly forward and back, finding whatever spinal mobility you need. So maybe side bending, bumping the hips left to right. Opening through the side bodies, through the rib cage. In a more lateral capacity versus front and back versus an expansion within the front body. And then on the next breath or so, untuck the toes. Allow big toes to come together to touch. Knees come as wide as you need. Settling into your child's pose. And if you'd like to bring a degree of softness, if you have a blanket, you can always place that underneath your shape here. Or if you find that you have, or you need more time to bring your hips towards your heels, or if that's not a space that's really accessible for you today, you can always place the blanket on between your calves and the back of your thighs. You can always place a blanket there for an extra degree of softness. Then allow your belly to fall between your thighs. Forearms can start by resting onto the mat. But slowly with every breath, finding a little bit of a reach towards the top edge of the mat. Trying to find a bit of rounding, a bit of opening through the back line of the body. So trying to find a subtle reach of the tailbone back and underneath you. Trying to lengthen the low back as the hips continue to work their way towards the heels. So if that means a little shimmy side to side. And eventually settling into your space, forehead comes down to the mat. And finding your breath into the back line of the ribs, the back of the lungs. Now that the front body is a little bit more closed off. Bringing the breath into a new space. And using the breath to find length, to create opening Feel how it causes a subtle stretch within the muscles between each individual rib, within the smaller muscles along the spine. And then go ahead and walk the left fingertips even closer towards the top of the mat. And then go ahead and slide that right arm underneath that little keyhole underneath the left armpit. Come in to thread the needle. Right shoulder comes down, right ear comes down. Gaze over towards the left. Come back to your breath. And breathing a little bit more into that right rib cage, that space that's a little bit more closed off than the rest. Inhale, unravel. Right fingertips stretch and creep their way towards the top of the mat. And then sneak the left arm underneath the right, bringing the left shoulder, left ear down towards the mat. Breathing into that left rib cage. Come on back through center. Walk both fingertips, really stretch out through the armpits, through the sides of the body. Exhale, settle down, heave the length there. Let the chest, the head fall between the biceps, between the shoulders. And walk the hands over towards the right. Keep that length. Really reach through that left hand as it comes on top of the right. And then bump the hips back in space. Keep that left sit bone anchored. Really open through the left side of the rib cage. Come on back, walk the hands through center, over towards the left. And then really reach through that right hand, come on top of the left, and then bump that right hip back in space. Really bow through the right side of the body. Then come back through center. And then drop the forearms, gaze forward, peel and snake the body forward. Come out of the front of the hips. Come into either a high cobra or upward facing dog. Don't mind the blanket if you place that between your legs. Just let it be where it is. Feel free to shimmy the hips side to side, whether you're lifted or you're lowered. Lifting through the belly, feeling the stretch all the way through the front body. Staying mindful and engaged through the upper body to find that lift. And then drop the knees, sit the hips back. Come back into child's pose. And then we're going to find a few rounds of spinal mobility, moving forward and back onto the mat. So on the next inhale, you're going to grip through the earth, around through the back. Coming through cat pose. And as your shoulders come over top the wrists, the hips fall. The chest peels forward, find that high cobra. Gaze lifts. And then after you pause at the top, exhale. Send the hips back. Find whatever mobility feels good. Move back into child's pose. Feel that connection of the hips to the heels. The hips to the blanket. Inhale, peel forward. Really creating a little bit more space every time you move through this space. Exhale, send the hips back. Inhale, pull forward. Really pressing through the heels of the hands, trying to create a little bit more opening, more separation between the shoulder blades. Inhale, pull forward. Exhale, sit back. Go ahead and remove that blanket officially. And then you're gonna come back forward. And on that inhale, rounding through the back, nice and slow. Allow the hips to fall. Feet to come away from one another. Shimmy the hips. And then exhale, lower all the way down. Adjust yourself as you need to be on your mat. And then go ahead and rest your forehead on tops of the hands as they stack on top of one another. Breathing into the belly. Feeling how that connection, that breath into the belly lifts the back of the rib cage up towards the sky. And then from here, go ahead and bring the left arm into a capital T. Fingertips just beyond the edge of the mat. Bend the right knee. And then we'll reach the toes, the right toes over towards the left fingertips. Make sure you have enough space to do so. If you don't, you can always just spin the right leg on top of the left. But if you have the space, you're reaching those right toes back behind you, aiming for those left fingertips. Spinning onto that left shoulder, onto the outer edge of that left leg. Using those right fingertips to help keep you in this space. Not forcefully, just supportive. Feeling that opening across the left shoulder. Nice and slow, come on back. Right leg land. And then switch sides, right arm comes out, left fingertips come in, bend the left knee, reach and step those left toes over towards the right fingertips, rolling onto that left shoulder, that outer edge of the right leg. And breathe. Come on back to center. Right fingertips come in, left arm now comes into a goalpost position. Palm is on the floor. And then this is going to work its way into the chest with a little bit more intensity. So in whatever capacity is available to you, you bend the right knee. You bring those right toes over towards the left side again. Feel the change in sensation within the chest, within the upper back. Come on back to center, switch sides, left fingertips in, right arm into a goalpost. Bend the left knee, reach those left toes over towards the right as you spin the chest over towards the left. Keeping that right elbow even with the right shoulder. Allowing the twist to be whatever it is, whatever is comfortable. Come on back. Right fingertips come outside the edge of the mat, and then peel the chest up and open. Moving through, let's just move through 3 rounds of Oscillating Cobra. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Nice and slow, hips stay heavy. Gaze lifts at the very end. Pausing for a moment before exhaling, settling down. One more round, inhale, peel up. Exhale, fall. Hands plant underneath the shoulders. Press up, sit the hips back, child's pose. Allow the big toes to come together to touch. Feel the low back lengthen as the tailbone, the sit bones reach towards the heel. Inhale, come up towards tabletop position. Bring the knees, the shins parallel to one another. And then from here, go ahead and kickstand the right leg out. Left leg comes to the back of the mat, straighten it out as you anchor down through the outer blade of the left foot. And then inhale, peel the chest, the heart open towards the left. Left arm comes up towards the sky. Pause here. And then reach those left fingertips overhead, expanding through the side body. Keeping that sole of the left foot grounded. Keeping the lift through the hips. Bumping up through the left rib cage. Stretching through the armpit as the left fingertips reach towards the top edge of the mat. And then keep that reach, keep that length as you slowly start to close off. Left hand comes down, right leg comes back to center. Left leg meets the right. Switching sides, kickstand that left leg out. Right leg reaches long towards the back of the mat. Spin the chest over towards the right as the right arm reaches up towards the sky and pause. Anchor down through the outer blade of that right foot. As you reach the right arm up and overhead. Stay nice and supportive in that left hand. Grounded through the outer blade of the right foot, lifted through the right hip, bumping up through the right rib cage as you reach the right fingertips towards the top of the mat like you can touch it. And then keep that reach as you slowly start to spin the chest down towards the floor. Right hand comes down, left leg back to neutral. Right knee meets the left. Now from here, we're gonna move into puppy pose. Grab blocks if you want a little bit more opening. Don't bother with them if you feel like puppy pose is everything it needs to be in this moment on its own. But the hips are gonna stay above the knees. Blocks are gonna come underneath the hands. Give yourself the space you need to allow the chest, the heart to fall nice and slow down towards the earth as the hips stay nice and high towards the sky, grounded down through the tops of the feet, through the shins. And again, the blocks may feel like that's too much opening here in this moment, but use them if you'd like. Keep them to the side if you don't. And breathe. Breathing into the back body, breathing into the space between the shoulder blades. And with every breath, you're settling into this space, not holding on to any tension that keeps you fighting to maintain this space. You want to give your body the opportunity to settle, to open up, not to fight. Nice and slow, gently press through the palms of the hands. Walk your hands, your knees towards one another. Then come onto your seat. However you'd like to get there. And then if you have a blanket, I'm going to have you bring that towards the back of the mat. And so that the folded edge is going to be away from you. So the crease, if you will. And that's going to be underneath your shoulders. So feel free to take a few moments to adjust as you need, depending on how you fold it. It'll likely just be above your low back, shoulders fall, and you want your head to fall off of it. So The blanket's just gonna be underneath your shoulders. Your neck and your head are free from it. And we're gonna come into a nice supportive, if this is in your shape, we'll come into plow pose. So once you have that space, walk your heels in towards your bottom, arms alongside your body. Go ahead and gently press down through the arms, bring the knees in towards the chest. Lift the legs up towards the sky and then slowly reach them back behind you. Aiming towards the space that's above your head. But if it doesn't make that connection, know that that is a-okay. Finding a variation of plow pose coming into more of a reclined fold can feel good. You can have the knees bent. If you find that you have a little bit more limitation within the back line of the legs. But allow your breath to encourage a little bit more and more settling into this space. And then maybe eventually, gravity will help you make that connection between your toes and the floor. Just allow this to feel good. Again, the connection of the toes to the space behind you does not have to happen. Great if it does. Okay if it doesn't. Knowing that being in that space where your knees are bent, sometimes if I'm feeling sore or tight in the hamstrings, I like to just rest my knees on my forehead or the space above me, just to feel that nice lengthening along the back line of the body. Using my arms to keep me supported in this space. And sometimes that reclined fold can feel nice, so there's no connection between your upper body and your legs, but you're feeling that length within the back of the legs, within the back of the spine. And slow and with control, lowering all the way down. Piece by piece. Maybe pausing with your legs to the sky. And then slowly lowering all the way down. Allow the feet to come towards the outer edge of the mat, knees knocked together. Maybe finding a windshield wiper side to side. If you want to find a happy baby, you can do that, whatever is calling for you. And then for our official final rest of today's class, we're going to find a little bit of a softer variation than starting class today. So if you have a blanket, you can go ahead and roll that up long ways so it's nice and supportive along the spine. So you can do that. Or if you have a bolster, bring that back into the equation. And line that up perpendicular to the front and back of the mat. Scoot your bottom up to the edge. Knees bent, feet flat, and slowly roll onto your bolster. Allow it to be supportive of your head, of your spine. Allow the arms to open up nice and wide. If you tend to be a little bit more sensitive in the low back, if you have a bolster and a blanket, another option would be to use the bolster underneath the legs, the blanket along the spine, come down into a lower space to open up within the chest. And then have the knees supported by the bolster. So you're in a softer opening compared to the beginning of class within the spine, but you're still supported within the legs. So find a variation that feels good for you, that feels like it brings the most ease and just feels good. Find your breath, using the patterns of the inhales and the exhales to settle into your props, into the earth, into your mat. Use the breath to release tension. Use breath to quiet the mind. There's quite a lot that the breath can help us with, both in this practice and throughout the day. So use it to your advantage. Use it to check those things off your list and to bring peace to your mind, to your body, to the space around you. And if you haven't already, close your eyes so that focus can become even deeper. That calmness can spread even further across all four corners of your mat. And stay in this space for at least 5 to 10 more breaths. Coming out of your shape, just as we did in the beginning of class, walking your arms underneath you so that you're nice and supported, coming off of your props nice and piecewise so you're not flopping right off of everything and stirring everything up. So take your time in this space, really settle into it for as long as you need. As always, thank you so much for practicing with me, and I look forward to seeing y'all next time. Namaste.